So I've just quickly set up my Brother KH890 Japanese made knitting machine. It's a metal bed machine. It has a punch card mechanism. Here's the carriage. It has a dial on the top here, which you can turn from 10 all the way down to 0, and this is the same as switching out key plates on a bond machine. 10 is the loosest tension for the stitch, and 0 is the tightest. There's some buttons here. We've got tuck, MC and part. These just refer to different types of patterning that you can do with the punch cards. So we can press both tuck buttons in to do a tuck stitch punch card pattern. We can tuck in one direction, we can tuck in the other direction. MC stands for multicolour, so that button's pressed in when we knit Fair Isle using the punch card. Part means slip, so we can press them both in to do an overall slip stitch pattern with the punch card, or we can use them independently and slip to the left or slip to the right. This here just cancels these buttons and just allows the machine to knit plain stockinette stitch. N and H stands for no hold and hold. On a bond machine, when you bring these needles out to hold, they automatically hold. But on a metal bed machine, you can choose to hold them or set the carriage to no hold and it will knit them back. So you don't have to faff about with the forward working position like you do on a bond. That's forward working position there. That's working position and that's non-working position. We have the row counter here. There's a tripper, and you push that down, it advances the counter and counts the rows. When you push it up, it stops counting the rows and stops advancing the counter. Here's the punch card mechanism. Here's a punch card. It's 24 stitches wide, so any pattern that is on one of these punch cards or that you punch out yourself, because you can get these pre-punched like this one is, or you can buy blank cards and punch out your own designs. But it's a 24 stitch repeat, so let me just bring out 24 stitches so you can see how wide that is. So however many needles you have selected out on the bed to knit on, the card will repeat the pattern of this width all the way across. The card is easy to load. It's just like loading paper into a typewriter. You just pop it in and turn the dial and it feeds it in. You do get these little clamps which go in those little holes on the edges, which locks the card in a continuous circle, so it will just keep repeating and repeating. I'm going to set it on row 1 because I'm going to show you some patterning in a minute. This lever here, that locks the card so it won't advance. That allows the card to advance one row at a time, and this one just is an extended version, so it only advances every 2 rows. When you're using the punch card and you're pushing the carriage back and forth, it goes down like that every row. This machine has 2 slots here where you can put your tools. This machine also has a accessory compartment. Some have a separate one, but this one has it built in. This here is a needle pusher. It pushes the needles that you want to use either out or in. This side is an every other needle version, so it selects every other needle instead of the flat side which selects every needle. These are transfer tools for doing cables, increases, decreases, things like that. These are claw weights. You hang them on the edges of your knitting, which stops the edge stitches tightening up. This here is called the tension mast. It tensions the yarn as it feeds through. The same thing that your fingers do in hand knitting. And this wire here goes up and down. So as you're starting and ending a row, it takes the slack back up as you push the carriage towards the beginning of the row. Now what's good about the metal bed machines, which you can't do with a bond, is that you can knit without having any weight on the knitting. So I'm going to show you that here. I'm just going to quickly cast on. I'm going to cast on 40 stitches. So I've got 20 on the right hand side of 0 and 20 on the left. That just keeps it centered on the machine. I'm going to push back every alternate needle just to do this quick cast on. So I'm going to feed the yarn into the carriage and push it across. I'm going to hang what's called a cast-on comb. These come with the metal bed machines, and it's only really needed for casting on. You don't have to knit with the comb in place. I'm just going to hang that on those loops that's just formed by pushing the carriage across. Now I'm going to bring all the alternate needles that I pushed back into work. I'm going to hang a couple of these claw weights on the comb just for a couple of rows, just to where we get some knitting on the machine. Oops, got something caught there. There we go. Now I can take this comb off, because I only really needed it for casting on. I'm going to hang these weights back on, but I'm only going to put them on the edges just to keep the edge stitches knitting. It's quite hard to do with one hand. And we can just knit away now, really. You can knit fast like that, or you can knit slow. See how much we've knitted already. That's just stocking stitch, just plain knitting. I'm going to move these weights up. Now I've already put this card in. It's just a basic card. I've got it locked. I'm going to bring the carriage to the left on the brother machine, Punchcard brother machine. You always begin with the patterning, starting with the carriage at the left. You have to bring it past this arrow here, which is called a turnaround mark, you see. Set the carriage to KC, which means knit card. I didn't show you this. This dial here, it's you can set it to N and L, which means normal knitting or lace. KC for knit card, SM for single motif, and CR means carriage release. So if the carriage jams, you turn it to CR and the carriage will just lift off the bed. So by setting the carriage to KC, it engages with this belt at the back here, which interacts with the punch card mechanism. And this row is just going to select the needles for the pattern, as you can see. Now I'm going to release the card so it will advance every row. I'm going to do a tuck stitch pattern, so I'm going to press these 2 tuck buttons in, and then we just knit away. As you can see, the card's advanced, and here we have a nice tuck stitch. As easy as plain knitting. There you go, that's just a little insight to the metal bed machines. There's so many accessories you can get for these. You can get the ribber, which I do have the ribber, but I've just set it up as the main bed. You can get colour changes, which change the yarns out the feeder automatically. You can get the garter carriage, which will knit garter stitch automatically. They are more advanced, and they're no more difficult to use. I've probably confused the hell out of you with this video now, but I mean, they really are quite simple. You can knit lace, fair isle, tuck stitch, slip stitch. You can do weaving. You can do all sorts.